All right, happy Tuesday. Hope everybody's doing well. Welcome to another lively discussion about the wild west, wild world of real estate, housing market, and everything else in between. And what's going on? What the heck is going on this past week? We're not going to talk about the election. No. But we are going to talk about what the future holds in 2025. And I've got an article that kind of goes into some predictions by a very good, reliable, very historically reliable economist that dabbles in a lot of data. So we're going to get into that. But I want to bring on my guest. It's nice, cool music, get everybody nice and calm, no heated discussions tonight. And I'm going to bring in my friend from, as we say, the good old Peyton Manning. Omaha. We got Mr. David Matney in the house.
Hi, Jen. Thanks
Hey,
for
David.
having me on your show. I really appreciate it.
You sound so official when you say that. Thanks for having me on your show. I'm like a news anchor or something.
I enjoy being in your chat. I like being on your, in the chat. So it's fun to be live. So
Yeah,
thank you very much.
so those watching the infamous living in Omaha, I think it's living in Omaha, right?
Yes, it is. Yes.
David Matney, that's always in the chat week after week after week, asking some terrific questions. He is real. He's not a bot that I created to add more content to the live stream. He's real, and he's right here. He's right here. But anyways, David, we're going to talk about housing market predictions, right? Because, and of course, this is, with all the uncertainty we talk, Jackie and I talked about this last week on the live stream. There's all kinds of stuff going on,
Right.
because of the election and what that might, how that might affect the housing market. So we're going to just kind of assume we're going to put that out of the equation for the time being and just kind of look at the numbers and kind of have a discussion about that and see where it's at. So you want to dive right in?
Let's do it.
All right. So we'll see if we can. I'm going to do this, and we're going to do this, and see how this goes. There we go. So we've got. This is an article I came across last week on Realtor magazine. What's next for the 2025 housing market? Now I pulled this article up because. This was they did an event actually in my neck of the woods, David, in Boston.
Yeah.
And Lawrence Yun, Lawrence Yun is the chief economist at the National Association of Realtors, and he has a history of really, hitting the nail on the head in terms of interpreting the data, making the predictions, kind of giving a pulse on what's happening. We got a couple people already joining us. Thank you so much, David. Major, is the J silent? Is it Major or Mayor? Regardless, thanks for being here. We got Nicole. Hello.
Hi, Nicole.
And Zolita. My husband and I love watching Cincinnati, Ohio.
All right.
Hey now, WKRP in Cincinnati. Sorry, I couldn't resist. For those that are old enough to know exactly what I'm talking about here.
About time for the Pine Ridge Shopping Mall to be bombed, isn't it?
So super glad to have you guys here. So Lawrence Yun, like I said, has a history of really kind of dissecting the data and kind of giving us a pulse of, all the research. The one thing that the National Association of Realtors does is collect data, right? They collect data on a national level, on a hyper-local level, and kind of take that data, interpret it, and and feed it back to us, and tell us what's going on. It gives us an idea of what's actually happening in the market, not what it feels like it's happening. I had someone last week, David said, "Oh, there's a lot of signs in my neighborhood. I can't understand how there's a housing inventory shortage." Well, that's one little tiny piece of data, and sometimes what you feel is not directly related to what is actually happening, right? So I always rest my hat on the data. So the first thing we're going to dig into is home sales. Home sales, and what we're talking about here is the number of homes sold, which has definitely declined this year. The article says, with improving job numbers and recent gains in the stock market, more Americans may be motivated to act, Yoon says. Yoon predicts an uptick of nearly 2 million jobs for 2025 and another nearly 2 million increase in 2026, which could bode well for the housing market. Quote, the 2023 and 2024 were both difficult years in the housing market, he said. But pending home sales eked out a 3% year-over-year gain in September, a signal that maybe the worst is over. So in other words, it feels worse than it actually is, right? It actually feels worse than it is. It doesn't feel like there's as much going on now, but it turned out better than, slightly better than last year. Other good signs, inventory of both new and existing homes is increasing, and the U.S. population has grown by 70 million from 1995,
Wow.
even though home sales have remained mostly at 1995 levels, signaling pent-up demand. I've got some data on that, actually, that I'm going to share. Yoon's forecast for the next 2 years, 2025 sales projections. Okay, this is the number of home sales across the country. Existing home sales will rise 9% next year, year over year. That's a bold prediction. That's a very, very bold statement. New home sales will jump by 11%. 2026 sales projection, existing home sales to rise 13% year over year, and new home sales to increase by 8%. So they're looking like a slight downtick in new home sales in 2026, but an uptick in existing home sales. But next year, we're going to see an increase. Instead of, we're at 3% year over year in September, he's predicting a 9% year over year. So what are your thoughts on that?
I think it'll go up. I'm not sure if it'll go up that much. I think that is a pretty bold prediction. Um, you know, I'm looking just our local market, and we're below, we're above the 2008 levels, but we're still not anywhere. You know, people are still depend. I think it's going to depend a lot on interest rates, on what interest rates do.
I would
If they
agree.
would come down, then I think that's going to free things up a little bit. But it's hard. Who knows what interest rates are going to do? They're going to do what they want to do, and nobody has control of them.
Yep.
So I think it's
Well, and
going to depend.
yeah, and I think that's I think David Major says interest rates will stay high. I actually have some predictions on that as well, that he kind of gets into. Um, uh, Sam Scott Kim, thanks for being here. I see you. Welcome back. There's not many 20% realtors out there. I am discouraged to buy. Yeah, we talk a lot about, and David, we talk a lot about, I talk on my channel a lot about the 20%
Yeah,
realtors versus the 80%. And honestly, you know what? I think it might even be slimmer than that. I think it depends
yeah,
on the area. As people are calling in or reaching out saying, "Hey, Jen, can you help me interview some people?" Because that's what I do. I
right,
go into the people that I know, and if I don't have somebody in that area, I start interviewing. And I have a whole set of criteria that the agents have to meet.
right.
Sometimes it's hard.
Yeah,
Sometimes I have to go through a couple agents, and it's not 20%. It's probably 10% or 5%
right.
of a given area that are at that standard. And I think a lot of it, Sam Scott Kim, is that with all of the changes in the industry, a lot of agents are getting out of the business. They're
Yeah.
just saying it's just too hard, or they're not well trained, or whatnot. So we shall see. Don't fret. Don't fret. Don't
Hang
fret.
in there.
Hang
Hang
in
in
there.
there. Hang in there. Don't let it
Oh,
stop you. You know.
Kate D. Boy, you look familiar, Kate D. Kate was on Jackie's live stream last night.
All right.
Kate from Michigan. Hoping there's more inventory in the spring when I'll be renting now, old house under contract. Actually, I'm gonna dig into those numbers as well, because there's some hopeful news in that
Yeah.
arena. There's definitely some hopeful news. But the one thing that I think that the in terms of the home sales and the overall population growth, a lot of people. The one thing I wanted to mention about that is I had a comment last week from a viewer that said that I don't understand how could we possibly have a housing shortage with these millions of homes on the market. How is that possible? And the reality of it is it's because of the population growth. And I actually have,
Right.
um, real quick, let's see if I can pull up.
And
Go
oh,
ahead.
froze there. I was going to say it's also the millennials are the biggest segment of the population right now, and they're at peak buying age, and
Yep,
so that's contributing to it as well.
absolutely. Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, I have. Yeah, here's the slide I actually wanted to share. So, this is the population, and this affects the amount of inventory. If we don't have enough, I'm going to just scooch this down to 2024 to a current. But I mean, David,
Wow.
check this out. Okay, so if we look at back to, you know, 1960s, right?
Right.
We had 170 million people.
You're right.
Look where we're at now.
Wow.
Double. This
Yeah.
is why we have a housing shortage. The number of homes on the market, and this is why we need new construction. We're going to get in a little bit more, you'll get deeper about, the home inventory in a little bit, but this this is why we are in the rut that we're in.
Yeah.
It's a tough situation. David says that fewer people live in a house now, and that is true. That is true, and that is 100% due to our affordability challenges, our affordability issues. So
Hopefully they'll be more creative and come up with new, be a little bit more flexible and build a smaller home and maybe on a smaller lot, some things like that. Hopefully the marketplace gets a little bit more creative
I hope so,
along those lines.
because um, something's got to happen.
Yeah. Yeah.
we're gonna be in a we're gonna be in for a bumpy ride. The second prediction was on mortgage rates. So let's see. So David asked about the interest rates. Thinking that the interest rates will stay high. So they go on to say that the trajectory of mortgage rates will have a major bearing on the housing market, how the housing market will fare. Yoon said.
Right.
According to Freddie Mac, the average 30-year fixed rate mortgage has ranged this year 6.08% to 7.44%. Yoon says the rates should stabilize at the low end of that range for 2025 and 2026. On Thursday, the Federal Reserve announced its second rate cut of the year, reducing its short-term benchmark rate by a quarter point. The Fed is anticipated to reduce its interest rate an additional 4 times over the next year. But hopeful buyers who may be waiting for lower mortgage rates likely won't see that anytime soon. Mortgage rates, he says, will not decline in tandem with the Fed rate. They never do, David.
Yeah. No.
The Fed rate and the mortgage rate are not connected. They often ride and they often run in unison, in
Right.
parallel, but they're not directly affected one upon the other. It has to do with the bond market, the 10-year yield, and how really the stock market, and which is why
Right.
that's why the rates went down before the Fed announced its 50 basis points cut last month. Right, it was a month, 2 months
Right.
ago. The mortgage rates dropped to low sixes before that happened because
Right.
of the stock market. So that's not only the stock market. The stock market affects investors and how that bond rate affects the mortgage market.
Jen, I
He
got a
goes,
question for you.
yeah.
On the spread, how they talk about the spread between the 10-year and the mortgage interest rate, and they talk about that being elevated now. Do you know why it's elevated, that spread?
So it's my understanding, and I am not a mortgage professional or an professional
Right.
economist. Economist, listen to me. I can't even say the word. Never mind, be a professional one. It's economist. You know what? That is going to be outside my wheelhouse. In
Okay.
terms of
Okay.
understanding exactly the dynamics of that, should probably have a mortgage rep come on
Right.
and have
Yeah.
some teaching on that. Because it's a lot of it has to do with investor speculation, right?
Right.
Because those bonds, when they sell off those bonds and they have higher yields, and how that speculation affects whether that rate goes up and
Right.
down.
Right.
There's a lot of moving parts.
Yeah, no, I get it. Yeah,
Yep.
and I didn't know, and I'm like, maybe Jen knows. Yeah,
There,
so that's
I have limitations. I, this brain can only hold so much, David. The older I get, the less is happening. Anyways,
yeah,
um, he goes on to say with a large budget deficit, there's
hmm
less mortgage money available. The government is borrowing so much of its money. A large budget deficit will prevent mortgage rates from going down to 4% as they did during President Trump's first as they did during President Trump's first term. Factors that could change Yoon's forecast: a reduction in the budget deficit, an easing of housing regulations are holding up home builders, or a significant increase in the labor force to help lower inflationary pressures. In such case, mortgage rates could come down quickly. He says, nevertheless, the lock-in effect of homeowners feeling stuck in place with a 2 or 3% rate from recent years will lessen over time. And Yoon pointed to the 3.5 million new babies being born each year, as well as the 1.5 million marriages, 700,000 divorces, 3.5 million people turning 65, and
yeah,
25 million job changes that take place each year. All
yeah,
milestones that often trigger real estate moves. So, that's something we talk about a lot. And the fact of the matter is that as people are sitting on these 2 to 3% mortgages,
hmm
people will get to a tipping point where they're going to move regardless. They're going to
right,
move regardless of what the interest rate is. They're going to move regardless of what the market is. Um, I've been in this business since 1996, so I've gone through 9/11, and I've gone
right,
through the great financial crisis,
hmm
and in 28 years I haven't stopped working. Now it ebbs and
yeah,
flows, and
right,
and and what people are doing in certain times changes, but people don't stop moving.
right.
You know,
Life is still going
it's
to happen.
life still happens. So as that, just by the nature of that being present, those 2 to 3% mortgages are going to slowly, over time, more and more
Yeah,
disappear and disappear and disappear. But it's interesting that they talk about that he talks about the reduction of the deficit, which is an angle that I hadn't heard. And easing in housing regulations, which is something that the Trump administration has proposed, and as it pertains to holding up home builders, and a significant increase in the labor force. So Jackie and I talked about this last night on the live stream. I've
mhm,
mentioned it here that there is, and I was actually doing some research this afternoon on it in terms of the labor force needing to be shored up. We need more
yeah,
professional, skilled laborers. We need
right,
more people in the trades. We need to increase that to, the reality of it is during COVID, coming out of COVID,
hmm
there are people that left the trades that never came back.
right,
And there's a significant amount that unfortunately didn't make it through COVID. And
right.
so those gaps have to be filled. And just because their regulations are freed up, just because the land is available, doesn't mean
Yeah,
a builder is going to be all of a sudden be able to turn out 10 houses instead of one, or
right,
10 instead of five, if you don't have a crew.
right. My son is in the construction industry, and that's hard work, and it's hard to keep the workers that are there because it's he hangs drywall, and it is labor intensive and tough work, and he gets paid well, and
Yep.
he enjoys it. He's that's something that college just wasn't for him, but he enjoys what he's doing now. But it is hard work, and it's he says there's a lot of turnover just because people don't last, and
Right.
so
Right.
that
It,
makes
it's
it
just
tough.
it's interesting because it's just the dilemma that we're in this society where you can watch these YouTubers,
Yeah,
Mr. Beast making millions of dollars, presumably being in front of a camera, which it's
yeah,
not that easy. It's
it's
but it's
not
perception. It's
right.
a perception that you're gonna sit in front of in day trade and make $1 million.
Yes,
It's the perception, and you know, it's what is it? I'm trying to think of the quote. It's like money comes disguised, or success comes disguised as wearing, overalls.
Yeah, yeah.
And I forget the term, I forget the phrase
I've
now,
heard that
but
success is sometimes disguised in overalls and looks like work or something like that.
yeah, something of that nature. In other words, like
Yeah,
you're not
and
getting out of this scot free. These
that's
kids are coming out
100%
of
true.
college and they're not making the money.
Right.
I got one living at home. That's a
Well, sometimes
college
you got to
grad.
start at a
That,
starter job, and you have to
but
work your way up.
you get a experience. She's incredibly talented. She's a
Hmm.
illustrator that is. She's just released her first children's book. She's amazing.
Oh wow,
But
yeah, wow.
would she be making more money if she's a welder? Yup.
Probably, yep.
Oh gosh, yeah. Davis says many trade people could be deported, and that's a possibility. That is 100% a possibility of what may happen. Um, it could stunt the progression of our home building industry,
Right.
and we'll have to wait and see. I wanted to jump over actually to a poll. See if I can bring it up here. I'm not sure. Oh, I got too many. I got too many windows. I'm trying to juggle. My brain is broken. So I just wanted to jump over. I ran a couple polls, which was interesting. I ran one on the community site of the channel, and then I've got one going on this live stream, and just to get a pulse of how people
Mhm.
felt, David, about heading into the market, into the
Yeah.
housing market in 2025. And we've got the choices were hopeful, optimistic, the market will get better; discouraged, pessimistic, that the market will get worse; neutral, market's not going to do any different; and frustrated that
Okay.
I'll never be able to buy or sell a home. And what's interesting is that 44% out of 45. Let's see if we've got, actually, I'm going to just refresh this because I think this is actually, I've got more, 114
Wow.
votes. So we've got 34% feel hopeful, 32% think nothing's going to happen, 20% feel
Oh, I
discouraged,
froze.
and 13% are frustrated. So what's interesting is that hopeful and optimism is nudging at the top.
Hmm.
So that's interesting. What do you make of that?
Um,
Anything? I think that's
it's
interesting. I think that's fantastic.
it would also be interesting to see where folks, when they're answering that question, what market they're from.
Mm, that's true. That's true. That's true. Because, depending on where you're at, that will dictate on, what you're
There's
seeing.
probably there's probably a political angle to it too. It would be interesting to know where they sit, what side of the aisle they sit on that
Yeah,
when they answer
maybe.
that. I'm sure there's probably a
We
there's
won't go there though,
political
David.
no, no, we won't go there, of course. I know, but there's always a political angle to everything.
Yep.
Um,
I wanted,
how would you answer that question?
in terms of how I feel,
Yeah.
cautiously optimistic.
Okay, and I think that's a good answer. That's a great, yeah.
I
I'm
mean,
hopeful.
for certain, I tend to be glass half full without my head in the
Mhm.
sand. Okay, glass half full, but pragmatic. I'm very, I tend to be very realistic about things. I
Right.
don't think things are going to be substantially better. I don't think they're going to be substantially worse. I think there will be nudging in the positive direction. Um,
I I agree.
just because, and the reason being is because there is such pent up buyer demand because of the population. We saw the
Yeah.
numbers, right? Showed you earlier.
Yeah.
75 million millennials are coming into the current market.
Right.
75 million. That's a lot of houses that we don't have because
Right.
73 million, 72 million baby boomers are not moving out. Now,
Right.
typically, the baby boomers, it would be a swap. Baby boomers, and this is why it hasn't been an
Right.
issue until the last 10 years.
Right.
People would age out, they'd either
Mhm.
pass the house down to the family, Now the family's not looking to buy a house, or, they would sell it. But the
Right.
fact is they wouldn't stay there. They would go into assisted living, they would go into nursing homes, so on and so forth. But
Right.
people are living longer. They're more
Yeah.
vibrant. They're more active. Like, 62, the retirement age is a farce. 62?
Yeah.
I'm 52. I'm not retiring in 10 years. Are you kidding me? I can't afford it. I might retire in 20 years, maybe. But the fact of the matter is, it's like, those baby boomers that inventory that they're sitting on, they're not releasing it back into the market, which means
Right.
now we have just like a compounding effect, right? But that compounding
Mm.
effect doesn't go away. Those people
Right.
still want to buy. They don't just say, you know what, we're going to just rent forever and I don't want to buy a house anyways. Or we're going to go to
Yeah.
Canada. Some people
Mm,
do.
but it's
but the fact is like the that remains, and eventually something gives. Something gives, and they say
yeah.
that, we're going to take a plunge. We've been saving. I can't live in mom and dad's anymore. I'm going to get a smaller
Right.
place just to get the heck out of here.
Right.
And they do.
And for the longest time, 7% was not. I remember my first home. My very first home was an investment property at 13%.
Yep.
And then when it was below 10, it was like, wow. And then when it got down to 8, it's like, well, that's a great rate. And then remember in 2008 when rates went down to 5, we were like, man, you'll never see this again. you
Yep.
know, and, it's too bad that it was whoever locked in at those low rates in the twos and threes. That's great, but we're paying the price. They the Fed should have acted sooner, quicker, and we're paying the price for that. Just my opinion. I
Yeah.
think
Well,
we're
I think there
we're
was there's a lot of things I coulda,
right.
shoulda, woulda, David.
Yeah. Yeah,
This
yeah,
is I wanted to pull this up. This is like since where are we at? Like 1980. The
yeah.
progression of mortgage rates over the years, and I just think it's interesting that in you're talking 1981 with an
Right,
18.4. Yes, it's all relative. It's all relative.
right,
Home prices and the appreciation of home prices and the affordability and wages, it's not running all in tandem. However, we look at the progression, and I think the progression that it lowers because prices are going up, because wages are not keeping up with home values. But you know what? It's starting, even though the rates are higher right now, maybe than they, obviously, if we look back, even, if we look
yep,
at, you know, at the bottom of the market, which was right around here, 2.7,
yep,
right? Um, you can see the blips here and there, but you know what? We're the progression is starting to go a little bit lower, a little bit lower. So, you know what?
right.
I think if it hovers in that area, we'll see what we can see. A couple things. I wanted to mention this earlier, that I do have a call-in number. If you guys want your question featured in your own voice, you can call this 508 number. Leave your first name, where you're calling from, and your question, and I'll feature it on the live stream next week. It's a cool thing. Put a
That
little
is pretty
animation
cool.
together and
Yeah.
stuff like that. It's a lot of fun. So I did that a couple weeks ago. Um, and it's a lot of fun, but just to but it'll be in your voice, which I think is which is fun. David says, "You do not retire; your profession retires you." Isn't that the truth? So my question, David, is my goal heading into 2025
hmm
is to be a full time YouTuber, content
Yeah,
creator. Okay,
yeah.
still put my foot in the pond of real estate to keep my pulse on what's going
Right.
on, but primarily. So how does YouTube retire me? That's what I want to know. People maybe say you're too old to be on YouTube. I saw a thing
You know,
last week, David. I saw a video. The guy was 80 years old, and he did a video
is
on
that
why you should start a YouTube channel at 80 years old. I said, God love them. That's
Well, but I mean, here's
fantastic.
here's the thing too. I think it's a competitive advantage because you have 30 years of
What
experience.
are you trying to say? Are you trying to say?
I'm just
Are
saying
you saying?
that's a
What are you trying to
that's
say? Are you saying I'm old?
no,
No, you're not.
you're younger than I am.
Ancient, ancient.
I think it's a competitive advantage because you have all of that knowledge. I watch your channel and I learn stuff. I
Well, I
watch your live
appreciate that.
streams and I learn things.
I appreciate that. Uh,
So that's a
Kniff, is
competitive
that what you
advantage.
say? Kniff says houses were a lot cheaper compared to income in the past. I agree. Totally, totally agree. Latoria, thanks for being here. Houses were 30K when you were paying 13%, though.
That's
That's absolutely true. That's absolutely true. But you were also making a fraction. I think minimum wage was like
right,
$4, $3.
right.
So it's all relative. A lot of it. It's not all relative. A lot of it is relative.
It's
So it's it was different challenges, different comparisons. It does have some similarities we can learn from the past, 100%.
mhm,
But it's everything's not all created equal.
right,
I mean, here's the other thing too, David. Now you know me. I'm a tech geek
right,
through and through. I
right.
love technology. I love to geek out on technology. I have
Yep.
way more than I probably should. Back in those days, you weren't buying $1,000 iPhone. You weren't
No.
buying $1,000 iPad because they didn't exist.
Right.
You weren't buying, expensive gadgets, doodads for every
Right.
possible thing that you can think of because Amazon wasn't around.
Right.
People didn't spend money like they do now. They don't. They really don't. So it was things cost less, people made a lot less, right? But
Hmm.
the savings rate was so much higher. So it's so much higher than it is now. And I think, that's not to say that that's the answer. To say that oh, just save more. That's not always the answer. But do I think that I've had plenty of folks reach out to me over the years that want to buy their first house, and then the mortgage rep talks to them, sits down, says, "Okay, so let's talk about your debt to income," and they have
Yep.
a $700 car payment, and they have
Yep.
two car payments, and they got
And
credit card debt.
um,
It's just too tempting. It's too easy to fall down that rabbit hole.
and student loans.
Yep.
I think
So,
that's driving a lot of it too. And I think there's a lack of financial education for folks in school.
yep.
You know, we had home ec and we had shop. Where you had to take a home ec class to learn how to cook. Burn stuff.
That is true. That is true.
But yeah, it's that's amazing. And just think about the technology that we're using right now. I couldn't imagine 20 years ago being on a live stream with somebody in a completely different market. It's amazing how that has changed.
100%.
And and
110%.
and
110%. Um, Lee says, please stop interrupting and let him speak. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry, sir. I'm so sorry, sir. I get very excited and I'm very passionate.
some of it might be my I'm not very tech savvy, so I'm still using my old fashioned webcam from way back in the
Oh,
day.
you're good. You're good. You're good. Kay, welcome, welcome. Kay says 15-year mortgage rates are in the mid fives for people with good credit. I'm planning to apply for one of those in late 2020, 2025, 26. Yeah, that's awesome. I wanted to actually
Yeah.
check to see where mortgage rates are at today. And the 30-year, it looks like it's about, let's see, where's the 30-year at? About 7.04 today,
Okay.
thereabouts. Where are we at on the 15-year? Oh, I can't easily see it. It's about, yeah. I mean, this is the Mortgage Bankers Association. It's
Hmm.
running right around right around 6.25%.
Okay.
But you know what? Changes on a daily basis.
Right.
Changes on a daily basis. And that is all, they're clumping together, they're averaging it all out. So you're absolutely right. If you have a good credit score, it's going to work in your
Right.
favor. I want to get on home prices. Home prices, home prices. So the predictions go on with says while homeowners have enjoyed record-breaking equity gains, homebuyers have been struggling with affordability. A typical homeowner has accumulated $147,000 in housing wealth just over the last
Mm-hmm.
5 years, according to NAR's research. As a result, the spread in median net worth between home owners and renters continues to grow. It stands at $415,000 for homeowners versus $10,000 for renters.
Wow.
Yoon says the strongest price increases cannot be sustainable for another 5 years. I would agree with that.
Yeah.
Or America will be divided with only a few getting to experience a tremendous housing wealth. He goes on to say, if we bring more supply to the housing market, home price increases will not be as outrageous and will be more in line with wages. So his forecast for 2025 is that the median home price will be up 2%
Mm-hmm.
over 2024, $410,700. And then he's expecting another 2% over 2025, $420,000. Those are pretty modest percentage amounts,
Mm-hmm.
David. Those are very, very modest percentage. You're in Nebraska.
Mm-hmm.
What are you guys seeing up there,
We're
over there,
locally, we're about
for
4.5 right now.
four
So
4.5% over last year?
yeah, so I think we'll be. We're in a market that has new construction, so we have over 6 months of inventory on the new construction side, and we have 1.7 on the existing. So
Okay.
I can see our new construction took
Uh-oh.
slightly from last year, but
Almost
I
lost you
think
there.
that's the market just adjusting with a little lower priced home being built. A
Okay.
little bit more. I don't think it's something where okay, hey, we're I think the market is just we're very fortunate. When I talk to um, some of the other folks out there in different markets, we're very fortunate in that we have new construction. You talk to like Jackie, and she's like, an entry level home is $800,000, and I'm like, how in the world can a person buy that?
Right.
You know,
Right.
and that's and then
100%.
it's or
100%.
somebody
Yeah.
like Joe in somebody's like Joe's market out in California, and it's like, how in the world can a person buy a home out there?
Right.
It just I'm very fortunate to live where I'm at, because in some of these other markets, I don't know if how that's even done, unless they're both you know making 250,000 a year.
Yeah.
you know
You know what? The average,
it's a two.
the average household income is up to like 150,000 is what the average home household income would need to be to afford the average or the median home price in the country.
Yeah, I mean, so
150,000.
how many folks out there have those good of jobs? you know yeah, so
Welders, plumbers,
the trades, yeah.
electricians.
Yeah.
No joke.
Well, and I
I
think
don't know if the
I'm
housing
sure.
market it doesn't
Yeah.
improve soon. I might have to go get a plumber's license or something. Look out. I'd be okay with that.
Yep.
This is the this I want to pull this up because this is the median sale price
Hmm.
progression. We look at if we actually want to dial this back. It was like this is where the crash was, right? This is where
Yeah.
the and it wasn't really a crash like overnight. A lot of people think it was. I mean,
Right.
the values did plummet pretty quickly in different areas of the country,
Hmm.
but we had the median home price in '07 at the peak before the great financial crisis. It dropped down. It was 257,000, dropped down to 208,000 by
Okay.
'09, and then it's been a slow, progression with a huge,
Right.
2020 is obviously where, the proverbial hit the roof.
Yep.
And we can see where things have, they've peaked and they're slowly leveling out. And they're
Yep.
slowly, very, very, very slowly. Now, this is, the St. Louis Fed numbers. This is
Hmm.
important to know, this is as of July. So they update these
Right.
quarterly. So we should be,
Hmm.
we should see the update soon to this graph, once they roll out the new data. But
Right.
it's not, we're getting there. But it's because we've got Q1, we've got Q2, and some of Q3. We got Q3
Right.
to 420,400, a little bit of uptick, which is normal because the Q3 there's always an uptick in Q3, slight uptick, and then there's always a down tick in Q4. So the
Right.
winter months, there's always going to be an adjustment. But I just wanted to bring that up because I thought that was interesting. Thoughts?
Um, Locally, what in your local market, Jen? What do you see prices doing on a local level?
So
Yeah.
in Massachusetts, I mean, we have, and I was trying to find actually a little bit earlier. I was trying to find that article that I had up a couple weeks ago where it had a bar graph, and I'm gonna continue looking for it here. But there was an article that kind of, I think it was put out by Fast Company, that
Mhm.
actually showed the number of states that were above and the number of states that were below
Okay.
the median home price and the inventory. Massachusetts, I mean, we're up in that northeast quadrant.
Hmm.
We're a little bit, I wouldn't say insulated, but we are hanging on strong. So our inventory is abysmal.
Okay.
There's no inventory. There I should say there that's not what I meant to say. It's not that there's no inventory. There's just
Hmm.
a not a near enough inventory to satisfy the
Right.
number of home buyers on the market. And things come on,
Okay.
they go right off. They're not selling outrageously over asking like they are in the New Jersey
Right.
market, but it's enough of demand that it's driving up prices. So
Right.
we'll probably land at about between a 6, 7, 8% appreciation year over year.
Wow. Yeah.
It's
Wow.
it's
That's.
it's bonkers. It's absolutely bonkers. And will that adjust? I mean, eventually. You hope it'll adjust
Mhm.
eventually, but um, not this year.
We're
Not this year.
still. I mean, it's what's nice in our local market is now folks are getting home inspections. They're not waiving appraisals. All
Yep.
of that nonsense is over. You got to kind of talk the seller into making sure that we put a right price on it because some of those sellers want to live back in 2021 and 2022,
Right.
and you got to educate them not
Or I was
to.
gonna say not talk them into it, but educate them. Right. I think is
Yes,
probably what you meant to
and it's
say.
like, yeah, that's probably a
Yep.
bad, yeah, but it's and then sometimes, hey, if we price it right and we get that first offer, then make sure that I had a seller. Ultimately it's the seller's decision, but had a seller that we got an offer right away, and the seller, it's a seller's choice, and 5 days later we should have took that first offer because
Mm.
sometimes sometimes you don't get that first offer back.
Yep.
That
You don't have that opportunity.
Yeah,
Yep.
so
Um,
it which is good. We're seeing more inventory, and that's just good for the buyers. And I think that's why I'm optimistic overall.
No, I think I think you're spot on. I'm still looking for that article to see if I can get my hands on it. It's just such a great article. I'm kind of mad at myself for not queuing it up earlier because I really think it does a great job at illustrating what we're talking about here. Oh, I think I found it. Dun dun. You know what? Tenacity or just being plain old stubborn pays off. So this goes into, yeah, this is it. I'm going to bring this up. So
Okay.
this graph, right? So this is going to show. This was a couple weeks ago, but
Yeah.
this was the inventory, kind of where like pre-pandemic versus
Right.
where we are how close we are to pre-pandemic
Okay.
levels. It doesn't show every state. And
Hmm.
actually, there was another graph that I was looking for, but it kind of gives you an idea of kind of where things are at, and kind of, where everyone needs to catch up to. So we've got these folks that are, caught up, and we've heard a lot
Yep.
about Texas. We've heard a lot about Florida. We've
Yep.
heard a lot about Arizona, right? Even Colorado, Utah. But I mean, we've got all these states down here that are just so far off. I mean,
Right.
Connecticut and Jersey, in terms of,
Yeah.
62% below pre-pandemic levels. So far to
Wow.
go. West Virginia, Maryland, Rhode Island, Massachusetts is tiny in here somewhere, Minnesota. So it's kind of, this is, here we are, little old Massachusetts,
Yep.
45.5%. So to answer your question, we got a ways to go.
Yeah.
We got a ways to go to get us up to the top of the, out from the depths of our
Right.
inventory deficit before we can start seeing some real change.
Are you guys seeing just what I've noticed in our local market is just an abundance of apartment buildings being built? Are you seeing that on a local level in the Massachusetts area,
Not
or
so much. Not so
not
much.
so much?
I mean, not so. I mean, I should. We have had apartments, but more condos,
Okay.
apartments for
Okay.
sale.
Okay.
So we Plymouth is actually one of, it's kind of a hot spot for retirees, baby
Okay.
boomers. So there's a more and more 55 plus,
Gotcha.
communities popping up. But I think the builders are really keying in on the fact that we have got to build more housing in a smaller amount of space. How can we do it?
Right.
Townhomes, condominiums, fewer
Yeah.
single families,
Okay.
fewer single families, which actually we can segue into, you know what the National Association of Realtors, good grief, don't want to mispronounce that word. Good grief, Charlie Brown. This is the, every year the NAR puts together a profile, right, of home
Right.
buyers, and kind of they do a profile of home buyers and home sellers, and kind of what the trends are, and make some predictions on what's going to happen. But they just released their 2024 version, and these are the types of buyers that are out there that are emerging. So we've got more buyers that are skipping the mortgages with the sizable housing equity gains many homeowners have experienced. All cash buyers that have surged to record highs, accounting for 26% of home sales over the past year.
Wow.
31% of repeat buyers paid all cash for their next
Yeah.
home.
That's.
Someone asked in the live stream last night about foreclosures.
Hmm.
This is why we're not going to see a foreclosure problem.
Right. Yeah.
This is
There's.
why. We had a lot of people, there was a run up during COVID with outrageous prices, over asking, huge
Hmm.
over asking, waiving
Yeah.
appraisals, all the things. These folks, what's different now versus 2006 is that the market crashed because of a financial reason.
Hmm.
The financial market, and the instability in the financial market, and people getting loans that couldn't
Right.
afford it, people getting mortgages at 100%, 102%, where
Yeah.
they would actually get money back, not only not bring money to the table, but get money
Yes.
back at
Yeah.
closing, right?
Yeah.
And um, it was bonkers, right?
Yeah.
It was bonkers. I just realized there are comments coming in, and for some reason my system froze. So I apologize, everyone. I'm gonna get to your comments here. But in this scenario, this time around, David, right? The folks that were buying during COVID were not. They weren't. A lot of them weren't financing. They were actually winning out bids because they had cash,
Right.
because they were taking cash out of their homes, buying homes, and then selling after the fact,
Yep.
or they had cash reserves, they pulled cash out of the stock market, pulled cash wherever. There's just a lot of money. There's a lot of money
Yep.
floating. And if that person becomes strapped, if the economy, if we go into a serious inflationary period, and things get really, really tight,
Right.
they're just going to sell it, and they get
Yeah.
out
They're
from
not gonna.
underneath it. They're
Yeah.
not going to foreclose on it.
Right.
They're
No,
not going to
that's
foreclose.
yeah.
Um,
That's
let's see. Oh, cases that the 15-year rates are mid fives for people with good credit. That they got that from NerdWallet. I like NerdWallet actually.
I do too.
I think it's a good source of information. AP says there are some portfolio lenders out there offering 15-year rates. K refers to interesting, interesting. I wonder if we'll see more of that. Latoria says, a new construction makes me nervous. Those builders like DR Horton are turning out crap product. I'd hate to buy a new build and it fall apart on me. I'm going to say, David, that I am actually, I'm marginally concerned about that. With okay, let me back up. My brain's getting a little. It's not keeping up. My mouth's not keeping up with my thoughts. I apologize. As things progress, as we head into 2025, we have a labor shortage. If things start changing and we start seeing more newer laborers, maybe laborers that are not quite skilled, they don't have the experience, they don't have the years under their belt, but these builders are
Mhm.
desperate to get people on the job site, could we see more of this crap?
I think
And
that's
if at the
all.
same time they start rolling back regulations,
DR
I,
Horton
I,
just came into our marketplace, and you just don't get very, you get what you get, and there's just not much options.
is it? We don't have DR Horton in our area. Matter of
It's
fact, when this first popped up on my live stream months and months and months and months and months ago, I was like, "Oh, there's a builder called Dr. Horton. That's interesting." But
yeah,
we don't have that experience. But so they must be just like slap them up, bring
they
in
go.
the A-frames, whatever. Just everything's all just bada bing, bada boom. No choices, no picking out colors. You get what you get, and you don't get upset. That kind of thing, right?
Yeah, it's like if you want, they come in like four colors, okay, and it's like if you want the blue one, then the blue one is on this address, and it we haven't had a lot of complaint. Now they just came into our market back in 2021 or 2022. Okay, so we haven't had many folks complain on a local level. I don't hear a lot of complaints locally, but I think a lot of it could be depend on the local labor force too.
Yep. I
So
wonder. I wonder how long it'll take before Amazon gets into the home building market.
I, you know what, you know, I,
That would be
it's
scary. That'd be scary. But I
what
don't. They do sell homes. Amazon
right,
sells modular homes, but you've got to have the place to put it. You've got to have the land. You've got to have.
right.
If you're gonna do a freestanding ADU,
Hmm.
then that's one thing. But BN says, I think construction prices are about to go way up, which will drive prices up even if we do get a lot of inventory. Unlikely. I I don't disagree. Double negative. I agree.
Yeah,
No, I think that's I have to wait and see what happens.
right.
But I think that there's the potential for that to happen. 110%. David says, looking at that graph, it's been a long time since we had a long recession. You know what? You're not wrong. You're not
Yeah,
wrong. We've had the England. We should have had a recession probably when COVID hit. We should have had um, we should have had a recession. Well, it was after 9/11. We were poised to have a recession, then it didn't happen, which is one of the reasons why things went absolutely crazy in '07. That we had a
right.
big correction, but we haven't had a big correction. Maybe that's around the corner.
I would say
We'll,
we're due.
we're
You know,
due, and
and that would lower
that's
rates. That would lower rates.
but nobody will be buying,
Um,
which will drive prices down. I don't know. We'll see.
but then people don't have jobs, so it's like for every gimme, there's a gotcha,
Yep,
one way or the other.
100%. Um, Latoya says I'm in New York, out on the island, and the price is just getting higher and higher. I had someone reach out to me on Long Island and
Hmm.
put them in touch with phenomenal. I have an awesome agent in my partner program that is just
Okay.
terrific. If you like Staten Island, Long Island area,
Hmm.
he's got an amazing team. And they put there's a modest house, good condition, but just a
Hmm.
modest house, and it sold for 85,000, over asking
Wow.
price. I was it's just because that it's supply and demand,
Right.
supply
Right.
and demand. Zelita says there's no lack of new builds here in Cincinnati, Ohio, but there is a lack of resale homes. Definitely
Yeah.
lots of apartments.
So that's what we're seeing too in our market too. That right there. Lack of resale, but lots of apartments.
Dave says
Yeah.
plenty of apartments in the Pacific Northwest. Well, Joe Pareca's in the house. Our friend Joe
Hey, Joe. All right.
over in Southern California.
Hey, Joe.
Southern California, where the median home price over there, if you don't have a million and a half in your back pocket, forget about it. See you later. Don't let the door hit you on the way out. It's crazy. Clark says Clark's over in the Atlanta market.
Atlanta, yeah.
He says the cash buyers are down here.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're definitely seeing that. I think maybe people are maybe they're being, you know what? I don't follow the stock market as closely as many do, and
Hmm.
maybe there's some inklings in the market that are giving people a little clue to say, hey, hold on to your money. You know,
Yeah.
um, it says you need a building inspection on new construction. You're absolutely right.
Yeah. That's
The problem
100%.
is that these things when you've got a builder coming into town and you've got these mass, construction projects, they're just turning. They're churn and turn.
Yeah.
Just go. And you know what? These building inspectors, they're maybe not as thorough as they should,
Right.
and they come in, they go out, things get missed. You know,
Yeah. Yeah.
you
It
can't see
happens.
everything.
Yeah.
Now, Clark says that D.R. Horton is in the Georgia market too.
Okay.
AP says oftentimes so-called cash buyers are leveraged through other lending sources, i.e., commercial lines of credit secured by different property or collateral. That
Yeah.
is a great point. So, what they're talking about there is if you are selling your house and a cash, you receive a cash buyer. So your agent says you have
Mhm.
a cash buyer. So the first thing you're going to do is you're going to say, "Great, show me the money.
Yeah.
Show me the money." A letter from the bank president saying that they
Right.
have the money in the bank, from their financial advisor saying that they have
Right.
the funds liquid, copy of a bank statement, account numbers
Yeah.
blacked out, it's fine.
Yeah.
You want to see the money
Right.
because guaranteed, if there is a less than qualified agent on the other end that is
Right.
representing that buyer, and sometimes the agent is just downright nefarious and they're trying to be sneaky to get the foot in the door if they're competing
Right.
against other offers, they will not do the homework. They'll say, oh,
Right.
well, it's just as good as cash because they're getting it through these other lines. No, it's not. Don't ever let a buyer agent or a buyer convince you, or your seller's agent. Maybe you don't have a great seller's agent. Maybe they try to convince you that a hard money lender
Yeah.
is the same as cash. No, even if there's no
Yeah.
mortgage contingency. And I've heard this time and time again. Oh,
Right.
they've waived the mortage contingency, but they don't have the money. They're gonna get it. They promise to get it. Not a problem.
Yeah.
We're definitely gonna buy the house.
Yeah.
Says who? If you don't have the means to do it,
Yeah.
and the hard money
Right.
lender falls through, guess what you're doing?
Right.
Yes,
Yeah.
you can potentially keep the deposit, but now you got to put the house back on the market, and you're starting all over. And now, depending on how the market is, depending on if you're buying another property, that could be a tough situation, don't
Right.
you think?
Those hard. I know people do it, and I know they do flips with it and all that. But that just really seems like you're really sticking your neck out. You know. Um, I'm just not that. I'm just that. That's just too much for me personally. That's
Yep. Latoya says that that is accurate. I did the no obligation offer on Zillow just to see. said my house was in the worst condition possible, and Open Door offered me $718,000.
Jeez.
That is bonkers. But show me the money.
Right. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Because that's what happens is
Yeah.
they want to do a physical inspection because they always do a physical
Right.
inspection. They hook you, they reel
Yep.
you in, then they send somebody to do a physical inspection. They go, you know what? We didn't realize that this house needed
Right.
XYZ. Our revised
Yeah.
offer is 550.
Right.
That's what they
No,
do.
that's 100% there. Yeah.
Catherine asks, how will immigration affect this? You want to start it on that one, David? On your thoughts on that?
I,
Or
I don't think on the buy side in terms of purchasing a home, I don't think. Um, are you talking about illegal immigration or
yeah, I mean,
immigration?
I think one half does or another. I think we can dissect this a couple different ways. I mean, there's always going to be immigration, right?
Yeah, which
As
we
this
need.
company is
We
built on
need folks.
immigration, legal immigration, right?
Right.
Um, if we're talking illegal immigration, I think that we're talking more rental market,
Right. And
in
then I
terms
think a
not
lot
so
of
much
those
the home
folks
buying market.
I think that would, um, you know, in terms of, is somebody that crossed the southern border going out and buying a home? No, that person's not buying a home. So there's no demand there. And I don't think a lot of those folks are living with other family members. So I don't think it's going to affect the rental market as much. Um, so I don't think it's, but over time, if once they're here and they're getting jobs and being productive, they're going to be buyers in the marketplace. But I think
Hmm.
that's years and years away before that happens. Just because
Yep.
they have to save money for down payment and that sort of thing. I don't. In terms of labor force, we talked about. Maybe you said this on your live stream earlier, and that is if we need workers. We need
Hmm.
people hanging drywall. So that could drive, delay things. The cost to build goes up. So I think that that could have an effect on prices.
Yep.
Um, I don't think, that's kind of my take on it. I don't know if, the mass deportation thing. Um, yeah, I mean, if they're going to do that, I hope it's done with some sort of, you know, if someone's being productive and doing something constructive. I think if you're a member of MS-13 or a gang or something like that, or you're in jail, then I can see, well, that's somebody that can, we can do without. You know what
We
I
just
mean?
went there. We just we
Yeah,
just we just went there, David. You went
yeah.
well, you went right for it for sure, right for it.
It's like, yeah, but I mean, that's, I'm like,
Yeah, I think for sure. I think that the effect on immigration, illegal immigration, deportation, in terms of a direct impact on the market, I don't think that's going to be the biggest impact at all. I
no,
think that yes, depending on how things play out, depending on the new administration's intent and their follow through on their intent for their mass deportation and all the things, um, I think that there will have somewhat of a change, but I don't think it's going to be significant enough to, drastically change the landscape across this country on our affordability. The
right,
real issue, which is the housing affordability. Builders, if they lose people, they will bring more people in. Now, those
right,
people that they bring in, maybe going to be less skilled, potentially. It does take
right,
years and years for new skilled labor to
right,
build up that experience. So it's not something that's going to happen overnight. Say, oh, we're just going to, go into the high schools and recruit, you know,
right. Yeah,
14 kids for construction, and now we're going to have, framers. It doesn't work.
all that takes
It
time.
takes time.
Yeah,
It takes time. So, could that be a growing pain in itself? And maybe that's one of the reasons why, they're saying that the new construction market, will be a little slower. Maybe. I mean, there's a lot of people that maybe will get out of. I mean, people change. What's the average adult changes their profession? It's like an average 5 times in their lifetime. Maybe some people will say, you know what, I'm getting out of whatever tech sector, or I'm getting out of whatever desk job,
Froze up on me for a second. Sorry about that.
and I'm going to get out of those day to day because I'm not making enough money.
Right.
I'm going to go swing a hammer. I'm going to go swing a hammer. I know how to do that. I did that in a
Right.
past life. Maybe I did that when I was younger, whatever. I'm going to go. I'm going to get into the electrical trades and be,
Right.
or get an apprenticeship. Who knows? Who
Yeah.
knows? Who knows? These are all things that will be. Time will tell. Time will tell. Clark says that the interest on hard money loans are usually higher too with shorter terms. Yes, they are.
That's
100%. They want. It's not for the faint of heart because they're looking for a quick turnaround. It's a short-term loan. It's a short-term
yeah.
loan. Duke 613 says, scared to death about the next 4 years about our democracy and economy. Everyone I know is scared. It's you know what, change in itself is scary. Here's what I would tell you. Here's what I would say, regardless of which side of the aisle you were on, is I will say the same thing I tell my children. You control what you can
Yeah.
control, and you don't worry about the things that you don't have control over. Yes, those things that you don't have control over may affect you someday. And yes, it's a good idea to keep an eye out of the
Right.
surrounding your surroundings. But is it necessary to go on the news every day? Is it necessary to go on
Right.
YouTube every day and look at what's going on in the news and what's happening to this and happening to that and so on and so forth? No. Put your head
Yeah.
down. And so I tell my kids, live your life.
Right.
Live
Make
your
your own.
life until you have to make it. If you have to make a change, and if all of a sudden eggs jump up in price, well, we'll eat something else. You
I
make
think
adjustments. You make adjustments. You keep an eye and all the things, but I think that you just have to. I think that the one thing that is going to be the match that can spark the fire is 2 words: what if. And you could what if yourself into a frenzy
yeah.
easily, and
Right.
it's easy to get scared that way. And it could go either way. What if things work out? What if it's not as bad as we thought? What if it's worse than
Right.
we think? We don't know, but we know
Right.
that today. And as I'm standing here, I'm a big proponent of therapy. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
I think everybody should have a therapist. I'm just
I
saying.
think anybody in real estate has a
I think
therapist.
everybody on the planet should have a therapist. I'm not joking. I think if you want job security, be a licensed therapist. You'll never run out of
Yeah. That's
never run out of income. But and I know we're getting all ushy whatever. But David, I go to bed every night and I go, what are the 3 things that I'm grateful for today? Even if my head's in a tailspin. I'm a single mom with a kid at home, college, and I have all kinds of things to worry about. I got to worry
right.
about all the stinking leaves in my backyard that nobody's coming to rescue me to clean. I got to figure out how, when. I got to get whatever. Life goes on. Life
That's
goes on. But
that's
I'm grateful. I got a house. I got a roof over my head. I
right.
got food in the fridge. I live in New England. I got heat.
Yep.
I'm not. I'm above ground. I
Right.
mean, I'm living. I'm breathing. All the things. That's what we need to focus on. To
Yeah. You
fight.
love what you do too. You love doing
I do.
content, and
I
that's
do.
fun. And
Yep.
so I do too. I think
That's my
that's
little. What's that? I don't know. Little. What do you call it? Mr. Rogers moment. Kathleen says, "Will the prefab home companies take advantage of the new construction market?" I hope so. Prefab or modular homes. I mean, just to be clear,
Yep.
we're not talking about mobile homes. We're not talking about
Mhm.
homes that are on an axle. We're talking
Right.
about modular homes that are built in the family built in a factory, that are built to the same specifications as a stick-built home. You build a home on site, you build a home on off location.
Yeah.
They're I would argue that a modular home is built better because it's in a
Right.
closed environment. It's in a,
Right.
an environment that is climate controlled. They're
Yeah.
built to withstand 70 miles an hour on a highway. So,
Right.
um, I think that I think we will. I hope, you know what? I think
I hope
it's
so.
ripe for the prefab companies to
Yeah.
take advantage of that.
Right.
For sure, for sure. Um, AP says to piggyback on David's question, is it still feasible to buy a rental property with today's interest rates?
I
Is
think
it
so.
Yeah,
I
it
think it's
depends. It depends where you are.
it depends on where you are, but you got to run the numbers and you got to really scrutinize the house. There's always opportunity out there. Sometimes there's a little bit more opportunity, sometimes there's a little less, and sometimes you got to zig when somebody else zags. So,
Well, I
um,
think it's looking at different markets in the country too. Like, I've got a friend
right,
that buys property out of her state all the time, and because she sees opportunity in other areas. Massachusetts is super tough, right? Home value is
right,
super high. It's very hard to make those numbers work, um, especially if you're not coming in with a significant down payment and you're
right,
carrying a note. If there's a note being carried, it can be a little challenging to make
yeah,
those average, even with the rents the way they are. Um,
right,
but I do think that there are opportunities. You know what I mean?
hmm
I do think that there's absolutely opportunities. It's just a matter of you got to do your homework.
You got to do
I
your homework
always
and you got to be patient.
you got to be
You got to be
patient, and you got to talk to folks in the field in your area.
right,
I would get with some local investors. Try to. There are plenty of groups and clubs
hmm
and area things that to try to. We have social media these days that
yeah,
is good for things besides watching political news. You
yeah,
can seriously, you can, if find out how you can talk to other investors
right.
and learn,
Well, that's how I
right?
got started in this whole thing. Is I was an investor first, and then I thought, well, why am I having an agent just open the door for me? And then I got my license, and then I got addicted to it, and I had so much fun selling
No
that I
kidding.
kind of went away from the investor side. But I was an investor for 10 years before I got my real estate license.
Well, you know
So I
what?
started out as an investor, and
So David, I had accidentally skipped over this question, David. I apologize. So Dave, this is a good question for you then. He says, "Do you think the age of the mom and pop landlord is over? What do you think?"
I don't think it's necessarily over. I think it's tougher to become being a mom and pop landlord. I think people are far more litigious now, where you're getting sued a lot more, things like that. I think the numbers are tougher, um, but I still think it's possible. I still think it's possible, but you got to just be careful not to get house fever and feel like you have to buy something. You got to be patient. That would be, and you got to run it as a business. It takes capital to run a business, and make sure that you have enough in reserve, and you got to treat it like a business. So,
Yeah, that's tough. That's a tough mind shift to get into that frame of mind where a uh, no FOMO, fear of missing
right,
out, right? You don't want to, it's like
hmm
if you don't get it, you're okay. Multiple
right,
offers. If you don't get it, it is what it is. Stick to your numbers. Number two, you cannot fall in love with a property. And I've seen that happen.
right.
I've met with
Oh yeah,
investors and they're like, but I really see the vision and I really like the setting. And it's like, no, it doesn't matter.
right,
The best investors I've ever worked with, it's they walk through the house and then that's it. And that
right.
doesn't, and then they crunch numbers and they spend
Yep.
more time crunching the numbers than they actually looking at the house, right? Because it doesn't matter. Great, as a great view. Does that get you more money?
Right.
It has a
Yeah.
great layout. Great. Does that get you more money? Does
And,
that drive up the rent prices? So,
and you're going to have one or two deals go sideways, and that's just called education. And
yep.
that's part of the learning process. And then the perfect deal doesn't exist either, you know. So you there's a risk involved, and you got to make sure your financial situation is lined up to start with before you get into it. If you have to you know, go into partnership with somebody, or if you don't have the funds to start with, well, then maybe you shouldn't be doing it to start with. You know,
Yes. Yes.
so all those things that our parents told us what to do um, probably apply. But too many people want to get. It sounds sexy and all that sort of thing, but hey, make sure you're financially set to start with before you even do it.
Yeah.
And that's my now I say that, and I remember when I was 25 years ago, did I take some calculated risk? Yes, but knowing what I know now, I wouldn't have done that. And some of them I paid the price for it. Where it's like, well, I made a mistake on that one, and boy, I learned the
Were you
hard way.
married at that time?
I was,
Did you
and
stay married? This
I
is the
did.
question. Oh, okay. Okay.
I did. I stayed married, but but then you got to make sure your spouse is on board too,
Yeah.
because yours, that's
The
you
benefits
fight
of you know what? Actually,
you fight
so
them.
what's interesting, I'll jump back to the article here. I was gonna say the benefits of being divorced or whatnot. Um, the different types of buyers that are emerging, David,
Yeah,
single women buyers continue to outpace single men buyers. A drop in marriage rates has triggered more consumers to enter the housing market on their
right.
own. Single women hold a 24% share of the home purchase market over the past year. For single men, it was 11%. Let's go,
I want to,
ladies. Let's go. So I
Jim.
thought that
Why
was very
why do you
interesting. I
think
wanted to pull
why do
that
you
up.
think that's the case? Just curious. What's your thought process on that? Why do you think that's the case? What's your theory on that?
I don't. I think it's just. I think maybe it's a sign of the times. I think it's just the fact that people are not. They're not just. They're not going to wait. They're just done waiting. The women are like, why do I have to be married? Why? I think it's just a different.
Yeah,
It's a shift in society. That's
yeah,
why. I think
yeah.
I don't know. There's a lot of studies that have been shown on single men that it's just there's almost like a failure to launch. You know what I mean? With a lot of these young guys, whereas like my daughter's 23. She's been 23 on Monday, and she's itching.
Right,
She's itching. To get out on her own, get her own place, start her
right.
life, all the things. Um, I don't know.
Yeah,
It's a very interesting dynamic. But that's just my you know
yeah.
just my outlook in terms of no data based on that at
Right,
all.
right. Yeah, yeah.
It's very interesting. Very interesting. Um, I actually, before I switch that off, I wanted to uh, say thank you very much, David, for being on this live stream. And that
Oh, thank you, thank you. I
if
really enjoyed it.
anybody's little plug on your channel here, if anybody's interested in
You know,
Omaha, you get some great content on your channel. You have some
thank
really,
you,
really great
thank you.
content on your channel. I think it's very educational, all the things. Uh, so make sure to check out David's channel, and if you need to get in touch with him, all his
Thank you.
information is there. And
Awesome.
then, of course, if you guys need an agent, you can click on the link in the description and fill out this form. I'll get back to you with some questions and whatnot, and we'll get you connected to a
Awesome.
20% agent. So
Awesome. Awesome.
110%. Um, let's see. I'm having some comment issues here.
Okay.
Still working out the kinks on this new live stream stuff. The new live stream software. Anyways, David, the poll on the live stream finished at. I'm gonna finish it actually. We're gonna finish this poll, and we got 68 votes on the poll,
Wow.
and we've got. Let's see if it's gonna give me the. Is it gonna give me the? Where's my poll results? Oh my goodness.
Oh, I'm sorry. We froze up there for a second. What was it again?
Yeah. No, yeah. You froze just a bit. I don't.
Yeah.
You know what? It was again. It was about 50-50 split.
Is that
The
right?
poll disappeared.
Ah.
I
That's
apologize
right.
for those watching. I apologize. I don't know
All
where
right.
the poll left. Anyhow,
Awesome.
David, thanks so much.
Thank you very
joining,
much. I really
and
appreciate
thanks
it.
everybody for
Thanks,
being
everybody.
on the stream.
Awesome.
We will
Awesome.
see you guys all next week, next Tuesday, same bat time, same bat channel. See you, everybody.